Most likely Michael was right that I needed to play knight e5, centralizing my knight even more, attacking d3. He can't defend it. I just played the Pennsylvania State Champion. This is round 1 of the Myerstown Winter Swiss. It's game in 40, delay 5. I'm going to go over my game without an engine, and at the end, we're going to go through it with an engine, and I'm also going to share with you some analysis by a national master on this game. So with that being said, let's hop right into it. So I played Michael once before with the black pieces, and he likes to play c4. He played c4 both times, and I liked against c4. I like to play e6 and d5, so it can transpose into a queen's gambit declined, and even if it doesn't, usually the positions are really solid and decent for black. He played g3. So now it's like a Neo-Catalan where he's not going to commit his E and D pawns, but he's going to fianchetto his bishop on this long diagonal and develop his pieces first, and like I said, not control the center. So definitely a very, I guess you could say provocative, because he's not controlling the center. But how should I put this? It's not really common, at least from what I've seen, this opening. But I can see why it's a choice that a national master might choose. Because there's going to be a lot less theory here as opposed to just e4 on move 1. And most people, like me, I don't see it very often. Anyways, I played d5, so claiming a stake in the center. He plays bishop g2 and giving up the pawn. And I could take it now. There's nothing wrong with this. However, I like to develop my knight first, and then he develops his knight, and then take on c4. Like I said, you don't have to do it in this move order, but that's just what I decided to do. The benefit of this move order is that if black takes immediately, it feels like black's position is a bit more loose. Like, for example, queen a4 check, bishop d7, queen takes c5, and this b7 pawn is hanging. Although, it doesn't look that bad. Although, I guess here, black is forced to put a knight or a bishop in front of their c-pawn. So, for example, knight c6, then black is putting black will never be able to play c5. And in the game, I do get to play c5, and I get a space advantage. So if we look in the game now, knight f6, knight f3 takes, and we have the same queen a4 check, bishop d7, and now I play c5. So I still maintain more space in the center, and I can develop my pieces behind my c-pawn. Now I think that's why playing knight f6 first and then taking on c4 is a better move order. Okay. Although, to be honest, it might not matter that much. So there's knight e5. He's opening up his bishop, attacking my b7 pawn that's not defended. And if I play a move like knight c6 here, he could just double up my c pawns. So after I take, this is probably not what black wants. It might not be that bad for black, but it's probably also not that good. Maybe he could also just take on d7 instead. But this is basically what happened in the game, so I don't think there's anything to worry about. I think it's more like just the structural damage to the pawns that black faces. Like, white's going to have a very easy game on this half-open c-file and just apply pressure for the rest of the game, and it's not going to be fun. Black is most likely going to lose at least one pawn, if not both, and white still maintains a very, very solid position. I mean, they barely moved any of their pawns, so there's no weaknesses for black to attack. So yeah, I definitely don't want that. So I play queen c8, defending my b7 pawn, and I'm so familiar with this position. I'm not out of book, I guess you could say. He castles, and I play knight c6. So both just developing here. Now his knight is hanging, so he takes my bishop. So he's won the bishop pair. But in return, I have these knights that control the center really well, and also this extra space in the center as well. So even though he won the bishop pair, which should be, which is an advantage, black is doing just fine here. So he plays d3, opening a door for his knight and bishop, and I play rook c8, x-raying the white queen. Just as good as bishop e7 immediately as well. Both moves are good. I decided to go rook c8 first. Sometimes bishop g5 can look a bit annoying, because if like bishop e7, there's like takes, and now the c5 pawn is hanging, but like in this case it's not good. But yeah, I don't think that's even worth mentioning. So but that did cross my mind for what it's worth. But yeah, it's definitely not good for white. Anyways, b3. So this is where he's going to either develop his bishop to a3 to put more pressure on the c5 pawn, or he's going to fianchetto his bishop on this long diagonal, and he's like doing like, you know, a double fianchetto setup. I play bishop e7, just developing. He plays bishop e2, and I castle. So we played pretty normal moves so far, needless to say. And I jump my knight here in the center. So he moves his last minor piece, but I move my knight here in the center. I think rook fd8 also makes a lot of sense as well. But here I actually thought it'd be a good time to take the initiative. I'm attacking his e2 pawn. If he goes e3, I could consider knight e2 check, king h1, and rook d8. In this case, my knight might be getting trapped. Like rook fe1. And if I win this pawn, he still wins my knight, and his knight's defended by his rook. So I'm not sure what I would have done if e3. I think I might have just gone back. Oh wait, now I remember. b5. That was my idea. If he goes e3, I'm going b5, and his queen is out of squares. He loses his queen. I can't believe I almost forgot that. Yeah. So because if queen c1 or queen c3, there's knight e2 check, just winning the queen, and of course he has literally nowhere to go. His queen's trapped in the middle of the board, which is crazy. So he doesn't allow that. He goes rook fd1 or fe1, and now I go b5 anyways. So I'm gaining space on the queen side, and I just have a very pleasant position. Like, I have more space, I have more activity. His queen's in a really awkward spot. Like, there's really nothing more I can ask for. And at this point, we've both been playing pretty fast. I think after queen c1, he had about 31 minutes. And after my next move, rook fd8, I had 32 minutes. So it's game in 40. So we spent a little bit of time in the opening, but we're both still playing a little bit fast here. He plays queen e1, which is a good move. Not that there are many other choices. Like, what else do you do as white? You really don't want to commit. Like, if you go e3, for example, that doesn't look very good because this d3 pawn is very, very loose, and you're just going to lose it. And if you go like e4, well, that's no good. Like, your d3 pawn is still weak, so you really don't want to move your e pawn. You could make a random waiting move like h3 or a3, but queen e1 makes a lot of queen d1. I should say queen d1 makes a lot of sense because now you're covering these three squares, and you're preparing to kick out the knight, and maybe also preparing rook c1 to get it on the half open file. So queen d1 makes a lot of sense. I played knight d5, centralizing my knight even more. So even though I have a very good position, I'm not sure the best way to proceed. Like, genuinely. I was thinking about the move a5 as a potential move, because just gaining more space on the queen side. I don't think there's anything wrong with this. Now his bishop is just like staring into space. So surprisingly, like, his bishop doesn't seem that very good. And of course, he never wants to give up his bishop for his dark square bishop for my knight, because now his like, this is just a gaping hole in this position. His dark square's on his queen side, so I could go rook c3 maybe in the future, and maybe I try to do knight d5 and knight knight c3 as well, potentially. So I thought about a5, but I felt like knight d5 was very good as well. It has the idea of going to b5, and I'm going to be really clamping on the c2 square. If I like, for example, e4, knight b4, threatening a fork. Like, this just looks very, very good. I can even rotate back to c6, and like this knight also attacks e2. Like, this is an absolutely winning position. So the knight d5 felt very good, and of course, if he gives up his bishop for my knight, I'm very, very happy. For either of these knights, I'm very, very happy. But he doesn't do that. He plays a3, which makes sense. Stops knight b4. Thought about playing b4 myself. I thought about playing b4. I just didn't like, knight c4 is just such a nice move for him. And it didn't feel right to just give him that for no reason. So I think leaving my pawns here to really control the fourth rank makes a lot of sense. So I play f5. So that was my other idea behind moving my knight to d5, is that now I'm free to move my bishop and my f pawn, and this bishop is my least active piece. Like, it's staring into my own pawn. I mean, it's not bad on this diagonal, but now when the bishop on f6 is on this long diagonal, and if I can trade off one of his most active pieces for arguably my worst one, that's probably good. He plays e3. So he finally kicks out my knight, I retreat it, and he plays queen e2. This move guards the queen and prepares to get a rook onto e1. And really, he wants to meet my rooks with his rooks. So he wants to go have a rook on d1 and c1. And now he's unraveling. That being said, I still feel like I have a really great position, of course. Like, if my knight moves, I'm still threatening d3, and life is pretty good. So I play bishop f6. He takes, I take back. So now his d3 pawn is hanging, and he plays bishop f1. And this just feels like a huge success. Like, I still have all of my pieces centrally, located. I have he put his bishop back on its home square. Like, this is absolutely great. And that all being said, like, what's the next move? Like, what should I play next? Tough to say. Like, how can I improve my pawn in my position? I don't have any good pawn breaks here. Like, c4 example would just actually, c4 might work. No, c4 and probably d4. Probably takes, and d4. And now the c4 pawn is weak. And this is probably not what I want. That being said, the more I look at it, it doesn't look that bad. Like, I didn't look at this before I recorded, but maybe c3, and after the knight moves. No, this doesn't look good. I guess I could go here. Stop the knight from going to c5 and attack his position a little bit, but I don't really like the look of it. And it's really hard to make a decision like this in the game. Like, with a move like c4, like, that's very committal. I mean, any pawn move is, any transformation of the position like that is very, very, very committal. Very committal. Another thing I considered was a5 once again. I considered knight e5. Michael actually said after the game, like, I thought you would play knight e5, but then I thought he could play d4. But then he said after the game, like, even though he does get the move d4 in, he said he's not sure if that's good for him or not. And I'm trying to remember what I calculated here, because I was thinking about this move, and I was like, okay, well, there's takes. And if takes, I have takes, but then he can take, but then I can take and take. Oh, wait, takes, and takes. I didn't calculate this far. I think I stopped calculating after I saw that he would win my e6 pawn. After I saw that he would win my e6 pawn, I stopped calculating. But maybe this is what Michael didn't like, was that, like, he wasn't sure if this was good for me or good for him, because in this case, I get my 2 rooks on the 7th. And actually, wait, how is he surviving? He can't defend f2. that means that he can't take this e6 pawn. That's what that means. And if rook here, to double up here, I probably have this move, attacking f2 this way. Or maybe I can play rook here, and if he tries to block my rooks, maybe I go here now. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the best way to proceed is. But most likely Michael was right. Most likely Michael was right that I needed to play knight e5, centralizing my knight even more, attacking d3. He can't defend it. He can't defend the d3 square. So I think he was right about the transformation of the position, how it was probably good for me. But I wasn't convinced, and I thought the move e5 was better. I thought it was a better move. And I thought, like, yeah, I don't allow him to play d4. I don't allow him to play b4 because I can just take twice. He can't play f5. Like, he has no active pawn breaks. Like, how is he going to get himself active? And there's two main moves I calculated here after e5. And they were the two most well, I guess there's only one forcing move. And that's like rook c1 because my pawn's hanging. And then I would have defended everything with queen e7. And one move that kept coming up in my calculation was knight f3. But it was a useless move to come up in calculation, though, because it's a move he never wants to play. Because knight f3 would be bad because it would allow me to play e4 with tempo. Because if he does decide to take, then he has to move his knight again. And I can go knight e5. But it doesn't really matter where he moves his knight. I'm going to go knight e5 anyways. So I kept calculating this move, and I was like, oh man, if he goes rook c1, I have queen a7 and e4. And if he goes, even if he goes knight f3, I still have e4. And my position is freaking great. And even here, I don't really care if I lose its b5 pawn. It's getting hit by both the queen and the bishop there. So I don't really care if that gets lost. So even though my position is a bit loose here, like for example, yeah, this move. I wonder if I have anything, like maybe h6 is a good move here. I'm not 100% sure. And his knight does get in. Oh, but there's a fork here. Okay. Yeah, there's a fork there. So, yeah, I was hoping that this was the type of position I was hoping for when I played e5. However, he does not make a bad move like knight f3. He plays rook ed1, getting his rook to x-ray my queen. And it's not a move that I calculated because, well, I was getting lower on time. At this point, after rook ed1, or rook ed1, yeah. He had 11 minutes, and after queen e7, my move, I had 13 minutes. So we still have some time, but it goes by really quickly in a classical rated game. And I was debating on what to do. Like the point of rook, one idea behind rook ed1 is that it prevents e4. So because now there's a discovered attack on my queen, and that's no bueno. So I think it was a very good move. And I think, in here I was thinking about two main moves. Queen e6 and queen e7. I wasn't sure which one was better. Maybe a move like queen f7 is also okay, because maybe I can play queen h5 at some points when the queen's not there. I'm not so convinced. It does eye the b3 pawn though, but I'm not sure how good that is. I also considered a move like knight d4, but then rook here, because I'm threatening a fork in this position, but he can just defend against it. But maybe here I can play b4. So maybe this is one thing I missed, because now he doesn't have time to play knight c4, and if he takes, I can honestly probably just take back with the pawn, probably opening up my rook, and I'm still throwing knight c3. And if he wants to defend the square, he has to play knight b1, which looks ugly. And maybe I can start attacking this pawn. And he's really on the back rank here. So maybe this was also a good way to play that I didn't really consider. I didn't really consider knight d5, to be honest. I really didn't. But after rook ed1, I play a principled move, which is just move my queen out of the x-ray. And now I still want to get e4 in. I still am really passionate about this e4 move. But he plays bishop g2. And like, now he's stopping it. He's controlling, well, not stopping it, because I play rook d6 first, apparently. But I do play e4 eventually. But he does have more defenders on it. And once again, I had to ask myself, okay, well, how am I going to improve my position? I ended up playing rook d6. I want to double up my rooks on the open file and attack this d3 pawn. And if I go rook d7, my knight is loose on c6. So after he makes a move like this, I can't go here because now my knight's hanging on c6. So I defend my knight and prepare my other rook to come over and attack the pawn. And I knew that he could attack my pawn, but I thought it didn't matter because I could either go... Well, before he played that move, I thought I would be fine. I forgot why I thought I would be fine. But after he played that move, I didn't like my position. I don't want to play passively and put my rook back and just defend the pawn. Although that might be the best thing to do in this position. Don't want to go rook d7 either. He might be able to play a move like b4. Because if I take and he takes, I can't take with the knight because my rook's loose on c8. But I guess I could take with the pawn. So maybe he doesn't want to play a move like that. But yeah, I had a tough time thinking here. And at this point, I had 12 minutes after rook d6. But then after rook ac1, I had 5 minutes. So I spent all my time on e4. And what I calculated was pawn takes, queen takes b5, rook cd8. And if he takes this pawn, I can take his knight. And I think I'm fine in this position. If he takes me like here, then I can take him. And if he takes my knight, I can take on a3, and there's no checkmate. So I thought that made sense. And I kind of played it out of desperation too. Like, I don't really have any other options. I really don't. But he played a move I didn't expect because it's not forcing. He played rook f1. And that was a wild move. Like, because it just undefends the knight, but my knight's loose. So if I take his knight, he takes my knight. And I was like, you know, in the other variation, after it took on c5, if he takes my knight, I can take on a3. But now I can't take on a3. And he's just up a pawn. And I don't think I'm going to be able to win these pawns out easily. That being said, this is probably my best shot. Once again, because I have a rook on the second rank, and maybe I can start attacking his pawns, and I'm only down one pawn as opposed to 2 pawns. So I think this was absolutely my best bet. I had to just be like, I'm going to put my rook on an active square. Like, in hindsight, you know, I haven't looked at the game since I played it, but in hindsight, I really should have considered this more deeply. But I guess I respected his move too much. I mean, once again, I'm just down a pawn, but at least I have activity for it. But what happens in the game is, I just go rook b8, attacking his queen. He gives a check. And of course, why did I think, if he takes there, I'm trying to remember what I was thinking. I think I would probably still take his knight. Yeah. Because once again, queen trade, that's not bad for me. I'm up a piece actually in this position. And if he takes my knight, once again, I have queen takes a3. I'm going to win this b3 pawn. So it would be awesome that if he just took on c5, but he didn't. And in my calculation, I always thought about him taking on c5, and that gave me counterplay, but he didn't do it. He played queen c4 check, and then took on e4. So this is a really accurate by him, I feel like. And just the way that he's limiting my counterplay. And more than that, I suppose that this just simply wins a second pawn. And I'm just 2 pawns down. And we trade knights. He offers a trade, and I'm like, how am I going to decline this trade? Like, legitimately, how? If I play rook d6, I don't remember what I was thinking. He might play a move like queen a4, attacking the knight crisscross applesauce. And after the knight moves, maybe this is better than what... Not maybe. This is definitely better than what happened in the game. But it feels like I'm going to lose this pawn on c5. And he has up 2 pawns at the end of the day, so he'll probably convert this. But this is probably better. Instead, I trade queens because I'm afraid of all the pressure. And more importantly, I win the pawn. And I thought, okay, maybe I'll win the a4 pawn, the a3 pawn. And then now it's okay if I lose these 2 pawns. Well, it's not okay, but my drawing chances are higher with all the pawns on the same side of the board. So that was my idea. But he takes on c5. I go knight e7, stopping back rank checkmate. He attacks my knight, and I knew that he could do this. But, I have rook e6, attacking his bishop, defending my knight, and everything's okay, except he plays bishop d5. I can't take because of back rank mate, and I resign. So kind of a brutal ending. Felt like a brutal ending. And I didn't quite know what I did wrong. And I still don't know. I still don't know. I think rook d6 was definitely wrong. And I genuinely think just going rook d8 is might be one of the best moves. And I think the position is probably still around equal. I'm not doing great, but I don't think I'm doing badly. And even here, once again, centralizing my knight, I think is probably very good. Don't need a fork. Really great. And like I said, I'm really happy if he gives up his bishop for my knight, helping me double. And now my rook actually has wings. These pawns are his wings, and he's defending everything very, very well. So I think those were my main 2. Like, I was too focused on e4. I was too tunnel visioned, which is kind of easy to be that way, especially when it's lower on time. When I'm lower on time. But I think I just wasn't creative enough in this position. And I didn't sense enough danger. After rook d6 and rook ac1, I don't think I sensed enough danger, and I should have just went back. But I don't know. So I'm going to pull up the notes that I paid a National Master to look over my games. Okay, so I have the board up now. The end I'm analyzing this game. I don't know if it's okay for me to say his name or not. I assume it's fine. But just in case, I'll just leave him as the anonymous NM who has beaten me 3 times in regular rated games before. He said he agrees with me that this is a well-timed move, which makes sense. I mean, it's just a tempo. I'm gaining tempo and like two of them actually. So it seems like a well-timed move. Whoa. 98 is a move he has in some of the analysis. And this is a wild move that I've never thought about before. Oh, white is slightly better. Yeah, because I guess they win a pawn here. But 98 is a wild idea. I guess the one idea of that is to target... One idea of that is target the queen on c4. Holy cow. Knight takes b3 is an interesting idea. Because knight takes b3, c4, attacking the knight, attacking the pawn. After takes, pawn takes. Because if you move the knight again, there's c3 and the bishop on b2 is trapped. And if after black takes, or white takes, and black takes, the material is equal, but black can double up on the c file, maybe. Maybe win this pawn on a3. I'm wondering if they should take with the knight instead and set up a discovered attack, but maybe queen could just move out of it. This is wild. This is wild. But then e4 in this case. Or e5. So you can't cover it. You can't get out of it this way. That's wild. That's insane. A move like this is... Oh, that's if he played e3. Yeah, Michael didn't play e3 in the game here. But that's another idea. If I don't play b5 immediately. Like maybe I can save b5 until this moment where I can sacrifice my knight on b3. That's insane. That's insane. That's freaking awesome. Okay. Yeah, this is an absolutely insane sacrifice. And that black is not up any material and it's about equal. That's crazy. That's crazy. It's obstacle bishops. At the end of the day, that's crazy. That is insane. Okay. In the Masters database, there are still games in this position. Which is nuts. In the Lead Chess Masters database, there's 3 games. Which is crazy. So Queen E1, he leaves a note saying that this is the first move out of book. I play knight d5. And he says, the idea of bishop f6, specifically trading off the dark squared bishops, feels strategically correct to him. It will be a menace otherwise. And it is our dark squared bishop, which is comparatively lacking. Trade bad pieces for good ones. I'm less sure of f5. So I play f5 later on. So he says he's less sure of f5, but he likes the idea strategically of trading off dark squared bishops. So at least that part, at least I'm correct on in some degree. But okay, f5 not maybe a bit weakening to some degree. I don't know. So I left a note saying that I'm not worried about my pawns being overextended, but he disagreed. He said he feels that taking more space in a position, but like the position opening up and getting shredded by white pieces. So let me just say that again. So he said he's a bit more concerned about my pawns being overextended than I am. The position opening up and getting shredded by white pieces. Like, so that could happen. Like if I overextend too much, then, you know, maybe all my loose pawns can be attacked really easily. So he's not convinced with f5. So probably he wouldn't have played f5. e3. Wow. I was wrong about this too. So here he leaves a note saying that e4, and he says white minor pieces benefit majorly from the opening of the position up here. The bishop on e7 looks particularly clumsy. For example, if I play knight of 6, then takes, knight f3, knight takes, queen takes e3, and I cannot take this pawn on d3 because the bishop is hanging on e7. And yeah, this position is kind of uncomfortable, I guess, despite the fact that this d3 pawn is weak. The bishops are beautifully crisscross applesaucing the center, and this f5 pawn is weak, and he has open lines for his rooks as well. So maybe this position isn't so clear. So the master said a6 is good, is a first thought. He said a6 is the first thought, solidifying the center, safeguarding the queen side. So down d4, the b5 pawn isn't hanging. And he gave a line that knight f3. Of course, a4, then knight b4 is good. Threatening the fork, threatening the d3 pawn. So knight f3, queen d5, rook AB1, knight e5, centralizing the knight. And this is probably pretty good for black. This bishop is still on f1, although it could go to g2. Next move, it's not super convincing. And black just enjoys more space and a pleasant position, probably. But maybe this position is about equal. Also e5, knight of 3. I could also play e5 as another option. Wow, e5 and f4. Now we have like these mutual weaknesses here. So just go back to the game now. So e5, he gave a question mark. And he said a6 was probably very good, or it's probably okay, because he said that's his first thought. And then knight e5 is given, an exclamation point. It's a good move. So he says that he feels like we are playing for an advantage here, and this is the best way to do so. If d4 occurs, then after c takes, e takes, queen takes e5, queen takes e5, and the rook gets in. a4. a4 is a move? What does a4 do? Because now if I double up, what's the idea? It's to take. And if I take... What? No. No, that can't be the idea. Oh my god. Yeah, black is probably losing here. This passed pawn? This king is safe enough for now? Oh, but the knight g4 though. Oh, but now there's a checkmate threat. And even if I took like this as well, how are you stopping the pawn? Holy cow. That's insane. That's insane. That's awesome. A4 is such a crazy resource. That's such a crazy resource. Check. Is this a draw? This has got to be winning though, right? Might be a... Oh wait, shoot, discovered check. It's being threatened. And if I go... If he goes here... Check here, that would be mate soon. So he has to go here. But check here, check here, check here. Once again, you can't go here because of mate. Yeah. So it's a draw, I think. So he's saying that I shouldn't be afraid of d4. And if he plays a move like knight f3, instead of d4, then knight takes d3, rook e d1, c4, and then I get my knight planted on d3, and I should be doing quite well here. Wait, what? Knight takes e5, queen takes, rook takes. Because if rook c1 and rook d2, and so white is going to lose their queen. That's insane. That's an insane line. That's an insane line. So knight d3. And black would be winning here. Because black can't stop the pawn. If a rook a2, knight c1. Knight c1 is just a ridiculous move. That's ridiculous. That's such an awesome queen sacrifice. Pawn gets through. Wow. Amazing. Yeah, another note here. Instead of rook d6, the move knight d5. Yeah, knight d5, rook a6, a6. Oh, what? Why not b4? b4 isn't as preferred. I'm not sure why. But he mentions the move a6 as a move. h3, g6. Holy cow, look at this pawn structure. I'm getting all the boys up. Safeguarding my position, essentially. King h2, king g7. And he said, I don't see that. He said he doesn't see an active plan for either side. This is the next series of moves for black, and I would play, just consolidating all weaknesses. Apparently, white is slightly better after g4. Could give some black chances. Could give black some chances later on. And knight b1 is another move we could play. King h8 is another move. Queen a2 and b4 is another way. That's really interesting. That's really interesting. Yeah. 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 I'm just gonna say his name. It's Matthew O'Brien. I don't think he would care. I don't think he would care at all if I said it. Okay, so rook d6 and e4. It's b6. Knight d7. He gives knight d7 as a great move. Let us make our opponent defeat us. Capture pieces, safeguard yours. Yeah. He's basically saying just place, like, keep your pieces. Defend my pieces. So in this position, I probably should have defended my pieces. I think it's funny. That comment is very funny. Just the way he phrased it. Let us make our opponent defeat us, capture pieces, safeguard yours. Like, it's funny just because of how simple that is. And it's like I understand that concept, but it's so, like, it's so true though. It's so true. It's so true. I play sometimes it's easy to overthink things, and he's like, just make your opponent defeat you, just safeguard your pieces and capture his. Yeah, it just isn't that hard sometimes. He does add b4 as a potential note. Then a takes here and knight b6 to defend the rook on c8. And there's a crazy move g4 as another potential move. Wow. Rook g6 and b4. Doesn't like that. Rook h6. Because now if b4, I can go queen h5 here. And if you go here, I wonder what I could do here. Maybe I can go rook g6 now is maybe an idea. Now I'm pinning the bishop to the king. I'll turn on the engine here for a second. Yeah, rook g6 is the way to go, I guess. And it's not clear at all. This position is not clear at all. Okay. So instead, I play e4, losing a pawn, playing rook cd8. Yeah, and he notes that rook b8 was a mistake, and that rook takes d2 is much better. Whoa, what? Rook 2 d5. I'm just playing defensively. And yes, I'm down a pawn, but I have more space. His bishop's sort of locked out for now. I'm defending my my e4 pawn. And how is he going to make progress with his pawn? His extra pawn is his f pawn. So maybe I should have stoutly defended. Just stoutly defend. Instead of kind of falling apart. Instead I play this move. He said, this is too easy. That was his response. He said I should play knight a5 because it's a much trickier move. Because, of course, if queen takes c5, then knight takes e4. And if queen takes a5, knight d2, attacking the rook. If rook f e1 or rook f d1, there's knight b3. Queen c7. Rook c7 also would work. So the game is still over. The game is still over here because my queen's hanging. And if I trade, then he's still up 2 pawns. So the game is still decided. But his point is much trickier. Knight a5 is much trickier. But I make it easy for him. And the game ends so. And this is what his notes were to me. Maximize your pieces, minimize theirs, especially if they have the bishop pair and you do not. Here, exchanging the dark squared bishops was very possible, and later, safeguarding your pawns and exchanging some material with a good position was possible at one moment. Move 21, knight e5. So that was this moment here. So he says, this moment was a good one to maximize my pieces. But I saw it. I just didn't evaluate correctly. And I thought I had a good conceptual understanding. And I still do think my understanding isn't bad. But I don't know. I think maybe I just got outclassed because I was just misevaluating or evaluating slowly. And I wasn't afraid of, I was overconfident maybe because I'm not afraid of overextending my pawns. I wasn't thinking about how I need to safeguard. And I was kind of like, I need to step on the gas. I need to step on the gas. But, maybe that wasn't the way to go. But I'm going to end it here. I'm going to hit the game view, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.